He takes me to his real apartment, not the Capitol Hill place, not the brown brick building with the mug ring on the coffee table and the single worn spot on the couch, the Belltown high-rise, the one with the view of the Sound, the one that costs more per month than I make in a year. This is where I actually live, he says. And just like that, the last piece of the performance falls away. The drive took 11 minutes. 11 minutes of silence and Debussy and the security car 2 lengths behind us. Fremont to Belltown. Coffee shops to glass towers. My world to his. He pulled into an underground garage. Not a lot. A garage. The kind with a gate that opens when it reads his license plate and a ramp that descends 3 levels below the street. The security car split off at the entrance. Stayed on the street. He parked in a numbered spot. The number matched the building address. Reserved, not rented. The elevator required a key card. This is power. Not the kind that announces itself. The kind that builds infrastructure around silence. Gates and cards and underground ramps and a garage so clean the concrete looks polished. He pressed P penthouse. Penthouse. The doors open into a hallway, not a shared hallway. His hallway. Private elevator, private floor. He unlocks the door and holds it for me. Same gesture as the Capitol Hill apartment. Same choreography, except the door's heavier. And what's behind it is a different universe. Floor-to-ceiling windows. The entire west wall is glass. Puget Sound stretching out beyond the city. Ferries and container ships, and the Olympic Mountains sitting on the horizon like something painted there. The apartment is open, high ceilings, clean lines, concrete and wood and light, but it's not cold. That's the thing I notice first. The Capitol Hill apartment was curated, careful. The olive oil and the mug ring and the exact number of books. A set piece designed to say, I'm just a guy. This apartment is lived in. A throw blanket bunched at one end of the sofa, a stack of books on the floor next to it with page corners folded down. A coffee mug on the side table that hasn't been washed. His grandmother's olive oil on the kitchen counter. The same tin. So some things were real. He stands by the door, watching me look at his life. I walk to the windows. The view pulls everything out of me for a second. Seattle from above. The water, the mountains, the sky. I grew up in Portland. I've seen beautiful views. This is not a view. This is what the world looks like when you own a piece of it. I turn back to the room and I see what the Capitol Hill apartment didn't have. Photos. On the end table next to the sofa, 3 frames, an older woman in a garden squinting into the sun, dirt on her hands. His grandmother, Florence, the one who taught him about olive oil and paying attention. A younger Ethan, maybe 22, standing on a rooftop with the New York skyline behind him. His face is thinner, hungrier. The jaw's the same, and a photo of a man and a woman I don't recognize. The woman has Ethan's eyes. Your parents? I ask. Yes. You said your family isn't close. They're not, but I keep the photo. He says it the way he says everything that matters. Flat. Simple. Like the words cost him something he's already paid. The kitchen is real too, not the careful selection of the Capitol Hill set. This kitchen has 3 different kinds of olive oil, a pasta maker on the shelf, a cutting board with knife marks so deep the wood grain has changed color, cookbooks with swollen spines, a grocery list stuck to the refrigerator with a magnet from a restaurant in Tuscany. I look at the list, his handwriting, the same precise small letters from the phone number receipt at Grind Coffee 3 months ago. Milk, arugula, lemons, prosciutto, the grocery list of a man who manages $8.2 billion in strategic acquisitions. This is your home, I say. Yes. Capitol Hill was the set. Capitol Hill was the version of me that could exist without context. I look around the penthouse. The art on the walls is not decorative. A small oil painting that might be a real Morandi. A framed architectural sketch of a building I don't recognize. A photograph of an empty street, black and white, with the kind of composition that makes your eyes slow down. Museum quality. Not because he's showing off, because he actually looks at them. I can tell which pieces he looks at most. The spots where the sunlight has faded the wall around the frame, the Morandi, he stands in front of it. A man who told me the Arnolfini portrait was a deposition, who read about Van Eyck's armor reflections at 11 at night, who offered opinions about Vermeer that were better than my art history professors. He has real art, naturally. He makes coffee, not from a drip machine. An espresso setup that takes up half the counter. The kind of machine that costs more than my car. He operates it the way he operates everything. Precise. No wasted movement. 2 cups. He sets one in front of me at the kitchen island. Oat milk, he says. Vanilla. My order. Memorized from watching me make one for myself at 8:15 on a Tuesday 3 months ago. In a kitchen that proves he's been someone else the entire time I've known him. I take the cup. Ethan. Yeah. You asked how much I already know. His hands go still on the counter. I know everything. The word lands. He doesn't move. Cross capital, I say. 8.2 billion in assets under management. You're the founder and managing partner. Goldman Sachs before that. Blackstone before that. His face does something I've never seen. Not the mask, not the warmth, not the authority. Something breaking open underneath all of it. Forbes' most influential private equity leaders under 40. The Bloomberg profile. The quiet power of cross capital. You walked away from a $2.3 billion acquisition because the labor practices didn't meet your standards. He leans against the counter. The posture change is small. His weight shifts backward, like the words have physical force. Vento, the restaurant in Ballard. It's yours. Cross Capital's portfolio includes the restaurant group that owns it. The valet called you Mr. Cross because you own the building he parks cars in front of. His eyes close. 1 second, 2. Your personal net worth is somewhere between $300 million and $800 million, depending on carried interest and co-investment. Aria. I make $38,000 a year. He opens his eyes, and the man looking at me is not the consultant or the boyfriend or the authority on the phone. He's the man from the car. Eyes closed, head back. 5 seconds of exhaustion when he thought nobody was watching. Except now his eyes are open, and I'm the one watching. How long have you known? He asks. Since Sunday. Maya found a conference photo through her PR firm's facial recognition database, the Global Private Capital Forum, 18 months ago. He lets out a breath, not a sigh. Something collapsing inside him, finding the only way out. The photo they missed. The photo they missed. He runs his hand through his hair. Second time I've seen that gesture. The first was Saturday night when he admitted to having me followed for 6 weeks. This is what Ethan Cross looks like when his control fails. You knew when you did the Vento test, he says. Yes. You watched me lie. Yes. Silence. The espresso machine hums. A fairy horn sounds somewhere far below the windows. The penthouse is so high up. The city feels like something happening to other people. I had a plan, he says. Patricia and I spent 3 hours mapping out every piece of information, the order, the context, the framing. I know. You weren't supposed to find out from a database. You weren't supposed to lie to me about Vento 12 hours after promising to tell me the truth. That one lands. His jaw shifts. Not the mask. The thing underneath it. Shame, maybe. Or the recognition of being caught by someone who learned to watch him by watching how he watches. That was reflex, he says. I know, that's worse. He nods, slowly. You're right, it is worse. He walks to the windows, stands with his back to me, hands in his pockets, looking at the sound, the posture of a man who has stood in this spot 1,000 times, processing things that most people will never have to process. Billion-dollar decisions, acquisitions that save or destroy thousands of jobs, phone calls at 10 p.m. that change the direction of companies. And now this, a barista who figured him out before he was ready. This has happened before, I say. He doesn't turn around. Yes. Women find out who you are, and it changes things. Every time. He turns then, leans against the glass with his hands still in his pockets. The morning light makes him look older, or maybe this is just what he looks like without the performance. There's a pattern, he says. At first, they're interested. Then they find out, and they get excited. Then the excitement becomes something else. His thumb traces the edge of his coffee cup. Slow circles. They start performing compatibility, saying the right things, liking the right restaurants, agreeing with whatever I say. They become what they think you want. Yes. And then I can't tell who they are anymore, because the person I'm with stopped being real and became a reflection of what I'm worth. I think about this. The man who memorized my coffee order by watching, who reads people the way he reads balance sheets, who told Bloomberg that the most valuable thing in any deal is the information. He would build an experiment. He would test whether someone could love him without the context. The consulting story, I say, the Capitol Hill apartment, the cash, the digital scrubbing, all of it. You built a version of yourself that someone could fall for without knowing the rest. Yes. And you chose me. I didn't choose you. That one stops me. I watched you for 3 weeks, he says. Every morning, the way you handled Karen and her oat milk, the way you remembered everyone's order without writing it down, the way you talked to Sarah about her latte art failures like they were real art. You were watching me decide. I was watching you be yourself. In a room full of people performing, you were the only person who wasn't. That's why? That's why. I wanted to know if you would like me without it, the money, the power, the security detail. And? He looks at me, and the vulnerability on his face is the kind that can't be faked. The kind I've only seen in 5-second windows, through car windshields. You did. That's what scared me. I hold his gaze. Because now you have to trust that I still do. Yes. We sit on the sofa, not touching. A foot of space between us. The blanket bunched at the other end. His unwashed coffee mug on the table between a stack of books and a notepad with his precise handwriting. He talks. Not the way he usually talks. Not the measured, minimal, every word carries weight way. He talks the way the exhausted man in the car talks when nobody is supposed to be listening. He built Cross Capital at 28. Goldman first. 3 years of doing what he was told and watching senior partners make decisions based on relationships instead of analysis. He left because a managing director killed a deal that would have saved 11,000 jobs in order to protect a personal connection. Blackstone next. 2 years. Better, but still operating inside someone else's architecture. I kept seeing the same pattern, he says. Talent constrained by hierarchy. Information siloed because sharing it meant sharing credit. Good ideas dying in committee rooms. So he built his own. The first year he slept on a couch in the office on the 37th floor of Columbia Center before they expanded to 3. The second year, he hired Patricia. She was the first person who told him he was wrong about something and didn't flinch when he disagreed. That's why I hired her, not because she was right, because she wasn't afraid. The third year they closed their first billion-dollar transaction, and his name appeared in the Financial Times for the first time. That's when the scrubbing started, he says. Why? Because once your name is in the Financial Times, it's everywhere. And everywhere means deal targets who negotiate differently when they know your net worth, competitors who track your movements, people who send letters to your office asking for money, women who show up at restaurants you've been photographed near. So, you erased yourself. I hired people to make my personal identity as small as possible. Cross Capital is public. Ethan Cross, the person, is not. 6 figures a year. Dev told you that? Dev told me that. A ghost of a smile. The first one since the coffee shop. Your friends are thorough. My friends are protective. He nods. Good. I look at the view. A container ship is moving through the Sound, slow and deliberate. Cross Capital has positions in supply chain logistics. He probably knows which company owns that ship. He probably knows what it's carrying. The security, I say. Tell me about the security. He pulls out his phone, opens his calendar. The screen fills with color-coded blocks. Blue, green, red, yellow, every hour of every day. I count the blocks. 16, 17 in some days. Blue is meetings, green is calls, red is security considerations. There's a lot of red. Every restaurant is pre-cleared by the security team before I go. Every route between my apartment and the office is mapped. 3 alternate routes in case of disruption. Every route between the coffee shop and my apartment? Yes. I think about the mornings at Grind Coffee, the 2 men with their tea, the car that followed me home. 6 weeks of invisible infrastructure. Marcus, he says. Who? The man in the gray jacket. His name is Marcus Williams, former military. He's been with me 4 years. Gray jacket has a name now. And the other one? James. He's newer. 2 years. Navy pullover is James. They both know about me. I say, not a question. They've filed reports about you since the Green Lake Walk. Where you go, what you do, who you interact with. It's standard protocol for anyone in close proximity. Standard protocol. He hears the edge in my voice. I know how that sounds. It sounds like surveillance. It is surveillance, with the intent of keeping you safe. You don't get to decide that for me. You're right. I look at him. He looks back. Not defensive, not explaining, just present. Accepting that what he did was wrong and not trying to make it sound right. That's the thing about Ethan Cross. Even when he's wrong, he doesn't lie about being wrong. He just stands in it. And that's more disarming than any excuse he could offer. He shows me his office on the phone screen, not the physical space, the structure. Cross Capital occupies 3 floors of Columbia Center. Patricia Cheng runs operations from the 37th floor, legal on the 36th. His office on the 38th with a conference room that seats 20 and a private line to their London desk. How many people work for you? I ask. 212, plus consultants. 212 people whose livelihoods depend on the decisions a man makes between 7 a.m. briefings and 7 p.m. departures. I think about what Dev said, a node in the economic grid, not just money, infrastructure, healthcare companies, logistics networks, hotel chains. A fintech startup I've seen ads for on the bus, all of it running through the man who tips 20% on a $4 coffee and reads the Financial Times at a corner table in Fremont. The Henderson thing, I say, on the phone at the coffee shop. What is that? His eyes sharpen for a moment, the authority flickering through. A restructuring. One of our portfolio companies. The CEO is pushing back on terms we set during acquisition. Henderson is the point person on the other side. And Cross Capital's position hasn't changed. No. One word. Same tone as the phone call. Flat, absolute, final. I'm sitting on his sofa in his penthouse listening to him describe billion-dollar negotiations, and I still haven't finished my coffee. Patricia? I say. Tell me about Patricia. She's been with me since year 2. She knows everything. My schedule, my security protocols, my medical history. She knows about you. She helped you plan the Thursday reveal. She insisted on it. She said if I tried to do it alone, I'd turn it into a briefing. Despite everything, I almost smile, because that's exactly what he would have done. Slides, context, a managed flow of information delivered with strategic pacing. Instead, I'm getting the unmanaged version, the one where a barista who already knows everything sits on his real sofa and watches him try to be the person underneath the infrastructure. He's better at this version than the managed one would have been. He just doesn't know it. Are you angry? He asks. I think about this honestly. The way he asked me to think about things. Honestly, am I angry? I'm sitting in a penthouse apartment that costs more than my parents' house and their retirement combined. The man across from me controls $8.2 billion and spent 3 months pretending to be a consultant. He had me followed. I look at the coffee cup in my hands, oat milk and vanilla. My order, memorized from watching. He lied about a restaurant he owns. He built an entire identity so someone would love him for the version that doesn't come with a balance sheet. I'm scared, I say. His expression shifts. Not surprise. Something deeper. Of what? Of not being enough for this. Aria. I make coffee. I went to art school. I stress about the price of olive oil at the grocery store. And you? I look around the apartment. The Mirandi. The windows. The view that extends into a different tax bracket. You make decisions that affect thousands of people before breakfast. That's not what I asked. You asked if I'm angry. I'm telling you something worse than angry. He leans forward, elbows on his knees, hands clasped. You're enough. You don't know that. I've spent 3 months learning every detail about who you are. I know that. 3 months of the version of you that exists in a brown brick apartment with a mug ring on the coffee table. That version of you and me, we make sense. We're 2 people who drink coffee and talk about Flemish painting. I point at the windows. This version of you and me? I don't know what this is. He's quiet for a long time. The fairy horn sounds again. Closer now. Or maybe the silence just makes everything louder. Both versions are me, he says. I know. The man who tips 20% and reads newspapers and brings a blanket to the beach because you crossed your arms. That's not a character I play. That's who I am when I'm not carrying the rest of it. But you're always carrying the rest of it. He nods. Slowly. Yeah, I'm always carrying it. I look at his hands. Clasped. The white gold watch catching the light from the windows, the same way it catches light from the coffee shop windows every morning. Those hands signed off on a $2.3 billion deal and walked away. Those hands trace circles on my wrist when he's deflecting a question he doesn't want to answer. Those hands held my face at the Capitol Hill apartment after I asked if he was dangerous. Same hands. Same man. That's the part I can't reconcile. Not that there are 2 versions. That they coexist so completely that separating them would destroy both. Your grandmother, I say. The olive oil, the cooking. That was all real. Everything I told you about my family was real. I just didn't tell you everything. What didn't you tell me? He's quiet, choosing words. I can see the calculation. Not the cold kind, the painful kind. The kind where every word opens a door he's kept closed for years. My mother's family has money, old money, the kind that comes with expectations and rules about who you're supposed to become. My father married into it. He never fit. The photo on the end table, his mother's eyes in his face. My grandmother was the only person in the family who saw me instead of what I was supposed to be. When she died, I was 12, and the last person who cared about who I actually was stopped being there to check. Until now, I say. He looks at me. His expression opens into a place I can't name. Not gratitude, not relief, older than both. The look of someone who has been holding a weight they didn't know could be shared. And in his eyes, and his grandmother's olive oil, and the knife-scarred cutting board, and the precise handwriting on the grocery list, I hear something that all the Bloomberg profiles and Forbes lists and net worth estimates can't capture. He's tired. Not the tired I saw through the car windshield. A deeper tired. The kind that lives in the bones of someone who has been performing two identities for years and is sitting on a sofa next to the one person he thought might let him stop. I don't reach for him, not yet, but I don't move away either. "Can I show you something?" he says. He pulls out his phone, scrolls, stops, turns the screen toward me. It's a photo, me, behind the counter at Grind Coffee, laughing at something. My head is tilted back, eyes closed, one hand on the espresso machine. My apron has a coffee stain near the pocket. Maya is standing on the other side of the counter, gesturing wildly. I can tell from her hands she's telling the story about her client who accidentally sent a press release to their competitor instead of their contact list. I remember that morning. I don't remember being photographed. "When was this taken?" I ask. "The day before I introduced myself, 3 months ago." He watched me for 3 weeks. I knew that, but I thought watching meant noticing, observing from a corner table. Not this, not taking a photo of someone who doesn't know she's being watched and keeping it. I took it because I wanted to remember the moment before I decided to change everything, he says. His voice is quiet. The quiet that costs something. "How long were you planning this?" I ask. "Since the moment I saw you." I stare at the photo, me, laughing, completely unaware that the man in the corner was not a consultant, not a regular customer, not someone who just happened to like the coffee at Grind. He was a man worth $500 million who walked into a coffee shop in Fremont and selected me the way he selects acquisitions. With research, with patience, with a plan. That should be romantic. The most powerful man I will ever meet chose me before I knew what choosing meant at his level. He chose me before he knew if I was interesting or boring or kind or cruel. He chose to find out. He chose the risk. He chose the 3 weeks of watching and the carefully prepared first conversation and the months of maintained performance. He chose me. Instead, it terrifies me.